Welcome to another episode of Behind the Grind. I'm always excited having future UFC prodigies on the show, but today we have been given the opportunity to speak to the newest threat in the UFC featherweight division, Mr. Alon Cruz. How's it going?
I'm doing well, man. How you doing?
Not too bad. As always, to start the interview, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Man, I live in Tampa, Florida. Originally, I grew up in Parrish, Florida, which is a little further from here. But most of my life was here, and I went to HB Plain High School. I wrestled a little bit, and from there, I joined a martial arts gym just to stay in shape. And I fell in love with it, and I kept doing it. And once I dropped out of college after about a year and a half, and I took on MMA full time, and luckily it's all paid off now.
Awesome. What did you originally start with? Was it wrestling?
Wrestling in high school. Yeah. Well, I did Taekwondo for about 2 days when I was like 6 or 7, but I quit after because the instructors they kept yelling at me, and I didn't like people yelling at me at the time, so I quit. But then I got into wrestling in high school, and then that's kind of where my martial arts journey continued, I guess.
Cool. So, what do you honestly focus on more, the quality or quantity of your training?
Um, I mean, I train a lot, but for sure, as long as I would definitely prefer to learn something, each session as opposed to just grinding through a session. Now, for sure, you definitely need those classes or sessions where you're just pushing the pace and you're just trying to get the conditioning in or just to do it. But I definitely prefer quality. I'd rather learn more skill work than conditioning, only because when I fight, I need to know what I'm doing and how to be more efficient as I'm fighting, as opposed to, you know, hitting 10 more squats at the gym. I'd rather do 10 more reps of a technique that maybe I'm not as good at.
So, do you have specific days where you actually do technique and just grind, I guess?
Yeah, it's up to my coaches. Whatever my coaches want to do that day. Sometimes, or if I'm beat up and I feel like, I don't want to push it too hard in a day because maybe I'll get injured because, sometimes you just get to a certain point where maybe you're overtraining just a little bit. So you kind of just want to step back a little bit, but without stopping training. You don't want to stop training. So
Hmm.
you'll come in, just do some light. Like this morning, I went to jujitsu and I just did some light technique. I actually didn't even roll. I just drilled light technique. I made sure everybody else, when they're rolling, that they're not rolling into each other. I helped out class a little bit. And then that was it. I called it a day, because, I'm still dealing with a couple of injuries from the fight, but, I'm there and trying to do what I can.
So, how would you actually say your experience with the UFC went in the end?
How what?
How your experience with the UFC actually went?
Man, it was great. I had a blast. It's kind of like, when you fought on all these regional shows or smaller local shows, you're used to having to, pay for your medical bills, set up your hotel stuff, or set up your travel. Just a lot of things that come with the fight. It seems like you're doing a lot just to get to the fight, and
Yeah.
usually, financially you come out either even or under. You're never really coming out above. But with Contender Series, I mean, the UFC, they pay for your flight, pay for your hotel, they give you a per diem, every day. Uh, everything was taken care of. Everything was scheduled. All my medicals, they scheduled the medicals for me. I just had to show up, show my ID. They paid for everything. They gave me free gear, free clothes, a new bag. I mean, everything was super professional. Obviously, it's the UFC. It's the best in the world. And the production value was great. I mean, it was like when I was there, I didn't really have to think a lot about anything else other than focus on the fight. And that's, I think, we're the best when fighters can be at the best is when they're only focusing on the fight and they don't have to worry about other things going on outside of that.
So, what was the feeling when you actually got the call versus when you won that contract on the show?
Man, so when I got the it was actually my manager. He actually texted me, and it was around like 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and he just said July 30th, and then he sent me a picture of my opponent's Tapology page, and that was it. It was pretty simple, and I remember like looking at it, and the first thing that happened was my stomach dropped. And that's always the first thing that happens when I get a name opponent. I'm always like, it's not nervousness. It's just like, oh man, like I actually have a fight now.
Yeah.
But then, obviously I was stoked. And then, but actually having the fight and then signing the contract over there, that was the epitome of everything. I mean, the getting the text in the beginning and finding out about the fight, that was great. I won't forget it. But winning the contract and going through the whole experience, those are the things I'm definitely gonna remember, and I would put on my top things in life that have happened so far to me.
Was the flying knee something planned, or was it just one of those things that just happened?
Well, I landed it in the second round. I actually threw a flying knee in the second round, and it landed straight on his chin, but he actually ate it, which I was surprised. And so in the third round, he was getting super aggressive because there was 30 seconds left. His coaches are yelling, for him to go, be more aggressive and go for the finish. My coaches are yelling to go for the finish. So, you could feel the tension in the cage. Like everybody's getting really hyped up. And he was pushing so hard forwards. I knew he wanted to like try to knock me out or whatever he was trying to do. And since I had already landed in the second round, I figured, well, this is Dana White's Contender Series. I need to throw something hard and show that I'm trying to finish the fight. I'm not just trying to get by and shoot a takedown or whatever the case may be. Like we saw, he didn't sign that guy for shooting a takedown fight. So I figured, you know what? Let me throw this flying knee as hard as I can, and if it lands, great. If it doesn't, then I'll take things from there. And luckily it landed and it knocked him out and finished him, and I didn't have to worry about him ever again.
And if you didn't start MMA, what do you think you would really be doing, like in your spare time?
I don't know, to be honest. I mean, I love history, so maybe I would be like a history teacher, or I would start like major in history, and it could be any kind of history. It could be world history, U.S. history, whatever the case may be. I just like I like hearing about Genghis Khan and the Mongols, or the gold rush of California and whatnot. So I don't know. Maybe I'd go into history or something. It's hard to tell how my life would have gone if it hadn't gone to the fighting path versus the academic road.
Cool. So, what is your favorite thing to do in your spare time?
My spare time, man, either just I mean, either watching anime and just relaxing with my dogs, or working on my truck when it's not raining. And here in Florida, it's been raining every single day now, so you can't even get outside, work on a car. Really, that's about it. I just I'm kind of a homebody. I like to be at my house, chilling. I don't like to be out and about too much. I think it keeps me out of trouble, but also I think it just tires me out. It's like doing errands all day. Like that tires me out. So I'd rather just be at home. So usually I'm at home just relaxing.
How would you say you manage your social life besides your fighter life?
Yeah, so I don't have a giant group of friends. I do have a solid group of friends though. I have maybe 3 or 4 very close knit network of friends. And I think it's important because they've been with me since before I was an amateur fighter. They've been with me all the way up until now. They've always been my support system. Like I said, I'm not the type of person that's going to roll up with an entourage of 20 people. I don't know half of them or anything like that. And, I don't mind, there's nothing, shade on that. I appreciate, newer people coming into my life, and, they want to give me support, or they want to help out, or, just be friends. I'm cool with that. But like a solid, people that I have in my life, there's only like 3 or 4 actual friends other than my girlfriend. So she'd be like my 5th or so, that I try to stay in contact with. As a fighter, you kind of have to be friends with everybody, right? You have to be friends with promoters. You got to be friends with, other fighters. You have to be friends with the media. So it's a little different then. Then it's kind of like everybody has access to you as a fighter, right? Because you have to be, nice to everybody. You have to be, open and welcoming. So that's pretty much the difference.
So, last couple of questions coming your way, champ. Where can we find you on social media? And is there anyone you would like to give a quick shout out to? The stage is all yours.
Yeah, man. So, you can find me on social media, on Instagram at Alon Cruz, AALONCRUZ. and it's the same for Twitter and for Facebook. I try to keep it pretty simple. Everything's all the same, and luckily nobody else has my name, so it's pretty simple to find me. Um, as far as people shout outs, my head coach, Daniel Hurtado, he's my head striking coach as well as my head coach. My wrestling coach, Mamu Goma, he's actually in Egypt right now, so I hope he's having a blast. My Ybor Jiu-Jitsu coach, Joey Best, he's one of the best in Tampa. And the good thing is he's a small guy, so he's very technical. He's not going to, do a lot of big man stuff because he's not so big. My strength coach, Frederick Sadler from Black Lion Athletics, we just started working like actually just before the Contender Series started. And, I've seen big improvements. Not in like crazy strength or anything, but just kind of evening me out and filling some where I had weaknesses, kind of adding in and filling those little weaknesses up. Yeah, my sponsors, Angry Elephant Tattoos. They've helped me out in a big way. They've been my sponsors since my last fight before this one. Dr. Doug, Pro Health, Cloudco CBD or Cloudco Farms. They're a CBD company based out of Denver. They're huge. I just picked them up after this last fight. And the Athletic Studio. It's a CrossFit gym locally here in Tampa. And they actually allow my team and I to keep our wrestling mats at their gym. And on Thursdays, we roll the mats out and wrestle on the mats and then roll them back up. Because we don't really necessarily have a gym of our own as a team at Def War. So we kind of have a bunch of different places that we train at. So also Tigers World Tampa, they also allow us to train in their facility. So that's a huge part of, our fighting community.
Awesome. Last but not least, I just want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to have a quick chat with you, and hopefully we can do it again soon.
Yeah, for sure, man. Thank you for having me on.
My pleasure. All right.
All right, man. Have a good one.
Yeah.